Hey guys, Hey guys, welcome back to another Ghost and Glam haunted story. So if you are new here, every Monday and Friday I sit down and I tell a haunted, creepy, out of the ordinary, true crime, unsolved mystery type of story while I get glam at the same time. Some Fridays I don't get a video up, so I always try and get a video up on Saturday. So if you're into that sort of vibe, then hit that subscribe button down below and join the spooky fam. Also, if you are new here, I do have merch that says spooky fam all over it. So if you're into that, go get you some because it's like the cutest merch ever. And if you're not new here, then hi, welcome back. We have a weird story today. So today's story is about the Greenbrier ghost. And it takes place in Greenbrier County, West Virginia. Man, that was hard to get out. You should have seen how many takes I had to do just to get that out. So the Greenbrier ghost name was given to a woman whose name was Elva Zona Hester. I think that's how you say her middle name, Zona or Zana. It's one of those. I'm not sure. Nothing is really known too much about this woman, like her early life or anything. The only thing that anyone could really find was that she ended up having a child out of wedlock in 1895. So, there's that. But like, who cares, right? But back then, I guess, it's a pretty big deal. In October the following year, Elva met a drifter. His name is Erasmus Stribling Trout Shoe. Ugh. But he moved to Greenbrier County in hopes to start a new life. He wanted to be a blacksmith. And he ended up getting a job at a local blacksmith shop. And that's how Elva met him. She went in there one day and they were like, hey, what's up? Want to go out on a date? Stuff like that. Well, as you could probably guess from there, they fell in love and they ended up getting married. And Elva's mother was not happy about this. She just had a weird gut feeling about this Shoe guy. We're going to call him Shoe. She really objected to the marriage. She was completely against it. She said she just got a weird, unsettling vibe from this guy. Well, I feel like mothers always kind of know when something's wrong, and her mother had every right to have a bad feeling about this guy because on January 23rd, 1897, the couple was already married. They seemed to be living a peaceful life. Well, Elva's body was discovered in their home by a young boy who was sent there on an errand from Shoe. Shoe sent this little boy to their house to do something. I don't know what it was. I didn't say what it was, but he discovered Elva's body. She was lying at the foot of the stairs, completely stretched out with her feet together and one hand on her stomach. So, of course, this young boy, he freaks out. So he runs to his mother and tells her what he found and what's going on. So she ends up calling the local doctor and coroner. I guess he wore two hats, apparently. His name was George Knapp, and he didn't end up arriving at the scene until an hour after the boy's mother had called him. What the hell took him so long? So here's where it gets a little, sketchy, okay? So when the doctor arrived, Shoe, Elva's husband, was already there. He had already gotten back to the house. Well, when the doctor arrived, he noticed that her husband had already taken her body up the stairs and placed her in bed and cleaned her up and changed her clothes. He put her in a high-necked dress with a really, really stiff collar and placed a veil over her face, a black veil, just placed it right over her face. This guy's super weird, right? Well, it was strange back then for this to happen because undressing a corpse and getting the body ready and washed was usually the job of the local women. Just women in the community would come together and wash the corpse and everything. This was just tradition, and it was just really strange that the husband is the one that ended up doing it. Well, the husband ended up staying with the corpse while the doctor was examining her body. He was said to be holding her head, cradling her head in his hands and sobbing. But when he was examining her body, he only examined her for a short period of time. And the only thing he noted was slight bruising on her neck. And when he tried to get closer to her neck to look at it more, her husband started freaking out on him. He was acting out violently, and the doctor had to stop the examination, and that was that. Seems a little fishy, if you ask me. I look like McDonald's. So the official cause of Elva's death was everlasting faint, but it was later changed to childbirth. I guess Elva and the doctor had been meeting for a couple of weeks before her death for women problems, but it was never said if she was pregnant or not. So after her body was examined and everything, news finally got to her parents, and her mother even said, "The devil has killed her." So what does mom know that we don't know? So the family decided that they would have a wake for her. Well, during this wake, it was said that Shu started to act very, very strange during it. It said his behavior went from overwhelming sadness to like high amounts of energy. Like he was just flip-flopping back and forth. And what's even stranger is that he wouldn't let anybody get close to Elva's casket, like at all. Especially when he was changing the pillow that her head was resting on. He would also put up a sheet on the other side of her head so nobody could see it. Why was he changing the pillow anyways? Like that's weird, right? He just seems a little bit sketchy, if you ask me. So just to arouse more suspicion about this freaking husband guy, he ended up tying a scarf around Elva's neck, and his explanation was that it was her favorite scarf. She would love to be buried in it, which, okay, I get it, whatever. Well, once they started moving Elva's body from like the wake area to the burial place, they noticed that her head was moving like kind of loosely, like just something didn't seem right about it. But of course, nobody wanted to say anything because that's kind of like an awkward thing to bring up. Like, what would you say, you know? Like, hey, your daughter's head's moving a little funky there. Like, you don't do that. That's weird. But because, like, all of this was happening and because Elva's husband was, like, super fishy about everything, Elva's mother started to get, like, really, really suspicious about this guy. She was, like, fully convinced that he killed her. Which, I mean, hello, you kind of can't blame her there. So I guess during the ceremony, Elva was like resting on a sheet inside of her coffin. Well, for some reason, her mother took that sheet out. I don't really understand like the logic behind that, why she would take that out. But either way, she tried to return it to her daughter's husband and he refused it. Like he didn't want this sheet. Well, her mother noticed there was kind of like a strange odor on it, so she ended up washing the sheet. And here's where it gets kind of like a little bit confusing, okay? So like just stay with me. So when she dropped the sheet into the basin that was holding the water, she said that the water had turned like completely red. And then the sheet turned pink and the water cleared. So I'm not really sure, like, I don't really understand that part. Like I have no idea what she's talking about. But apparently she took this as a sign that her daughter was murdered. Okay. If you guys know like what she's talking about, can you please explain it? Because I don't. But either way, after this happened, her mother ended up staying up all night for weeks just praying and praying over and over again that her daughter would come and show her some sort of sign that she was murdered or something about what had happened to her. Well, this is where it gets interesting, okay? Her mother claimed that soon after she started praying for her daughter to show her some sort of sign, that for weeks after the funeral, she ended up coming to her in her dreams and telling her that her husband is the one that killed her, that he was like really cruel and abusive to her, and he attacked her in a fit of rage the night that she was murdered because he thought that she didn't end up cooking meat for dinner. Like he was pissed off because there was no meat in his dinner. And because of this, he ended up breaking her neck. To prove that her husband had choked her out, pretty much, her mother said that the ghost of Elva had turned her head completely around till it was facing back to her again, like a freaking owl. And that's how she proved that she was choked and like her neck was broken. I mean, I guess that's something that could happen, right? I guess. Well, regardless, her mother did not ignore those dreams at all. She ended up going to the local prosecutor and was just pleading her case. They were in his office for hours. And she was just in there trying to convince her case. Like, hey, you need to like figure something out with this. You know, my daughter came to me in my dream and I'm really convinced that this is happening. You need to look into it further. Well, it's not said if he like actually believed the whole ghost story part of it, but he did feel like what she was describing to him with her husband and everything and just all the suspiciousness that happened around her funeral, that, you know what, there could be something that I need to look into for this. So he actually ended up reopening the case. So he ended up interviewing several people that were involved in Elva's case, like involved in her death, including Dr. Knapp. Remember him, the doctor slash coroner guy that only examined her for like a few minutes? Well, he actually admitted to not being able to examine her body properly. So because of this, it was enough justification to perform another autopsy and examine the body again properly. So Elva's body was examined on February 22nd, 1897 in a schoolhouse for some odd reason, just like a one-room schoolhouse. She was examined for 3 days. She was just laid out on a table for 3 days in a schoolhouse while an autopsy and an examination was being performed. So, of course, since all this was happening, her husband was not happy about this. So it was said that he was like vigorously complaining about this, like throwing a freaking temper tantrum, but by law he had to be present at the autopsy. But not only that, he also stated that he knew that he would be arrested, but that no one would be able to prove his guilt. Like, dude, come on. If you didn't do anything, then you have nothing to freaking hide. So what did the autopsy show exactly? Well, I'm going to tell you, there's something in my eye. It showed that Elva's neck had in fact been broken and her windpipe was smashed. There were marks of fingers on her neck. Her neck was actually dislocated between the first and second vertebrae. The ligaments were torn and ruptured, and of course her windpipe was crushed so bad that it came to a point like at the front of her neck. So because of the evidence that was found during the autopsy and the way that this guy behaved at her funeral, he was arrested and charged with the murder of his wife, like as he freaking should be. So of course he was sent to jail and he was awaiting trial. Well, while they were waiting for his trial to start, they started to dig up some more dirt on this guy. So they found that this guy had actually been married twice before he was married to Elva. Well, the first wife said that she divorced him because he was like really cruel to her, you know? Same as Elva. He was just domestically violent. And then his second wife, she died under unusual circumstances. Nobody really knows how she died. And it was only a year after they were married. Well, while this dude was in jail, he spoke with like no hesitation at all about wanting to marry 7 women. And also that he knew that he would be set free and be able to go and live out his dream because there was little evidence to point him to murdering his wife. Let me do my lips really quick and then we will finish this little story up, alright? Okay, sorry, I'm sitting a little bit more comfortably right now. Let me take these out. So the trial began on June 22nd, 1987, and Elva's mother was like the star witness into this whole case. Well, she just kept going on and on and on about seeing her daughter's ghost, and that was like her reasoning for the whole thing of how she knew that Shu was the one that murdered her daughter. Well, Shu's lawyer didn't like this, so he was trying to throw off Elva's mother by questioning her about her daughter's visits on cross-examination. But her mother wouldn't budge from what she strongly believed. I mean, she wasn't lying. She was completely telling the truth, you know. I mean, she believed that she was seeing the ghost of her daughter, and she believed that her daughter was the one that was telling her what was going on. Whether it's true or not, it's her truth. Well, Shu's defense lawyers were trying to get the judge to disregard this whole thing, but the judge found it like super difficult to tell the jury, hey, you don't listen to this part. You can only listen to this part. And the jury seemed to believe Elva's mother that she did see the ghost of her daughter. Well, because of this, the jury found Shu guilty of murder on July 11th and sentenced him to life in prison. Honestly, like, do you think he really killed his wife? Because I freaking do. But after the trial, a lynch mob actually formed outside the jail to take him from the jail and take him out and hang him. But the mob was broken up by a deputy sheriff, and some of the people that were in the mob actually faced charges for this. But I mean, hey. But anyways, that is the story of the Greenbrier ghost. What do you guys think. Do you think that her mother was actually seeing the ghost of her daughter and like that helped her to get her murderer arrested? Like, what do you guys think? It's kind of strange, right? I don't know if I like full on believe that she was seeing the ghost. She could have. I'm not saying like it's not a reality or anything. I think she could have. I strongly believe that she felt that she was seeing her daughter's ghost. But either way, I really do think that her husband is the one that murdered her. Regardless of whether or not she was seeing her ghost, you know, the murderer was put away. Like, clearly he was the murderer. If you don't think so, then I don't know. I want to hear why you don't think so. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. And I have nothing else to say except I love you guys and I will see you in the next haunted story. Bye.